Let's get to a deal that didn't happen as well. It was one we've talked about a lot here, of course, and Jim and I have spoken about it oftentimes, but it is now official. Nvidia is no longer buying ARM. SoftBank reported earnings this morning. We'll have more on the earnings, by the way, later in the program. But as for that deal, which would have been the largest chip deal of all time, it is officially now called off. We've talked often over the last year or more about expected opposition, and what did come to fruition is opposition from regulators here in the United States, regulators in the UK, regulators in China. There was no shortage of potential opposition to this union. The only ones who seemed perhaps positive about the possibility of getting it done was Nvidia's CFO, certainly when and CEO, but even they have admitted, and this was a few weeks ago, of course, already, that this wasn't going to happen. So they terminate the deal. There is a payment from Nvidia to SoftBank, $1.25 billion breakup fee, and they will continue to have a relationship. Nvidia will retain that 20-year license from ARM. Here's what Masayoshi Son had to say on the SoftBank earnings call. We are very much willing to do this transaction. We kept the passion for that. However, each government, regulatory, and those major players have been showing a strong position against or block the transaction. So that even with despite our tremendous effort, we're terminating. Not much more needs to be said. They're going to try and take this thing public now. That is ARM. In 2023, and again, in the presentation talking about it as the largest, greatest chip IPO of all time. But we'll see if it gets to the public market. But that now is the plan for ARM.
Yeah. Is there a broader, sense out there that SoftBank in general is, by kind of design or by necessity a little bit in trim down mode, or they're looking to harvest some things? At this point, the stock, their own shares down by half.
Yeah, their shares have declined, as has, of course, the value of the holdings.
Yeah.
Although when you take a look at the Vision Fund's investments, they are still well above, obviously, what they paid for them. A lot of embedded value there. And again, we'll get to that. Unclear. I mean, there was a period where they got out, Mike, of operating businesses,
right,
obviously. Sure. Sprint and ARM was one of those that we've viewed that way as well. They don't want to be operating things as much as they simply want to be focused on the investment side. And so this would be the only business they wholly own at this point, I believe, that they fully operate. Well, I might be wrong. I want to make sure the mobile business in Japan, of course, where all this began, perhaps as well, but haven't kept up as closely as I need to. We're going to have more, though, on the SoftBank numbers and fill in some of those blanks as well.
Fair to say that this has been so tired in the making. It goes back to September 2020, and a lot of people had sort of begun to write this off in some ways.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, something I brought up, though, is you remember a number of years back, SoftBank owned a significant stake in Nvidia, more than 5%, and then they sold it. And actually, for an investor who likes to hang on for long periods of time, it was somewhat surprising. This deal would have brought them a significant stake in Nvidia, made them one of the largest, if not the largest shareholder in the company. And obviously, Masa certainly just wishes he'd hung on, because even with these recent declines in Nvidia from, an $800+ billion market value down into the 500s of late, nonetheless, it would have been a home run investment for him had he hung on. He did book a gain, but not the gain that was available if you go back from, let's call it a 5-year period. One of the greatest performers, of course, has.
I mean, not necessarily terrible. Given what's happened to overall semiconductor valuations since they've struck this deal, it's not as if they're caught with an asset that's not going to have decent value in ARM.
Right.
When they eventually do take it public, if the market holds together.
And then